but the smaller, more niche sci-fi genre, while making good progress, could use a bit of a boost. Starfield could be that boost. 2 years ago, I said Starfield could be the tentpole of space games, the mainstream release that could raise the tide for the entire genre. It had the studio, the timing, the hype. And I was wrong. No Man's Sky, in my opinion, has pretty handily taken that role. Starfield had a huge launch, but faded kinda quickly, and while it's still in the press, it's not exactly the most exciting news. It didn't push the genre forward, in my opinion. At the time though, I had pointed to No Man's Sky as a successful comeback story, but in the last few years, Hello Games have only proved that they were in the middle of a much bigger story. And when I say it's now the biggest game in the genre, I don't just mean by the numbers. What we've seen since that video hasn't just been a bunch of updates, it's been a game that turned disaster into a decade-long success story, outlasting and outselling its rivals, and quietly becoming one of the biggest, most influential space games out there. So today, let's look at how No Man's Sky became the biggest in the genre, and how that success has allowed them to start looking elsewhere in the game industry. Thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. Starfield, from the makers of Skyrim and Morrowind, is at a level above these titles in terms of development efforts. You know, just listening back to that video in July of 2023, my biases are on full show. Bethesda was a childhood icon for me, the maker of some of the greats, a relatively large AAA company now working hand in hand with the maker of my default game console growing up. And they were making a space RPG. Was I unnecessarily hyped? I was, but like I said in that video, it wasn't just Starfield. It was the James Webb Space Telescope. It was the Expanse series finale, which we will talk about a certain Expanse game here on the channel soon. And honestly, it was just a little desperation from a space game fan. It's been rough for space gamers in a time when you can find a good fantasy game by just pressing a letter on the Steam search page. Space gamers are looking for a return to the 80s, 90s, and even the 2000s, if you couldn't tell. While Starfield was a serviceable game with some fun sequences, interesting ideas for exploration, and engaging storylines, it just didn't feel connected together through space as much as just in it. It was a perfectly fine RPG, it just didn't feel like the game that could represent the genre, and certainly not influence it in a particular direction. And while it struggled to maintain its player base and create more content for them to enjoy, it was not alone. Star Citizen has had immense success, but finds itself dipping into new practices to do so. Elite Dangerous has started selling ships through the use of a special in-game currency. Dual Universe just shut off its servers, and Kerbal Space Program 2 has had a rough couple years. While there were a few standouts in the space games realm, one project that has been around since 2016, admittedly going through its own issues at the time, actually saw profitability nearly double year over year in 2022 without releasing a paid update. The sheer presence of No Man's Sky, the story that got it to where it is, and its sneaking ability to remain the torchbearer for the space games category all make a lot of sense at this point. Let me explain. Can you think of a game with a more raw story? This game was a victim of corporate overhype, dragging the creator down with it in one of the worst game launches we had seen at the time. I even tried to get my own refund, but played for too long and missed the window. But you can bet I was looking. It was an awful time for everybody involved, and it took years of regular free updates for the game to get back to where it was supposed to be feature-wise at launch. But when it did, it didn't stop. There has been a major update virtually every year since then, and they've never charged a dime more than the game's price to access them all. That's it. They just don't monetize their existing player base in any other way. And by maintaining their own game engine and building in new technologies as they go to update visuals, mechanics, and features, they can simply move along with the game industry, quietly identifying the features that work best in the genre and creating their own, looking at trending topics across media that may interest space game players and adding their own, looking for opportunities to capitalize on the current state of the industry and making it their own, all while keeping the team lean, independent, and heavily focused, a strategy that has resulted in another game currently seeing a successful launch right now. The comeback story that follows this game, its ability to adapt and release completely free-to-play updates every year, and its reliable and dependable business model have blessed Hello Games with one of the most widely praised reputations in the industry, and almost certainly the largest player base on average of any space game. It also kept its head down, poking up to release an update, then sliding away until the next year, ready to make more noise. No need to keep quarterly interest or push monthly battle passes. It's just all been done very quietly. I thought Starfield would be the tentpole for the industry because it was popular, I'll admit it. Skyrim set the stage and the Fallout releases caused some hesitancy, but I genuinely thought Starfield would become a mainstay, at least able to stay above Space Engineers on the Steam concurrence, if we're talking about space games. It was naive of me to think that with Microsoft at the helm, and to overlook what really matters to people, easily accessible new gameplay. Starfield, unfortunately, as far as space games go, I don't think has introduced enough new gameplay. No Man's Sky, on the other hand, stays relevant across the industry, introducing new updates with new mechanics. It supports just about every major platform, runs natively on virtual reality headsets, actually making it a great showcase for the tech. It's a breeze for newcomers to get into, and its reputation truly does precede it. I know it seems like I'm just bagging on Starfield right now, but I genuinely did believe that it was going to have this position before, and I want to make clear why. I know a lot of players who return to No Man's Sky when there is an update, or every so often in between bouts away, because the gameplay can get old. I generally do this as well, but that back and forth motion of players from a game makes it spread like fire. It continuously reminds everybody that there is a game in the space exploration realm that provides a good all-around experience at low stakes that gets updated regularly. No Man's Sky may not beat others in maximum player count at any one point, but going by copies sold, it is actually possible that No Man's Sky, which hit 10 million copies 3 years ago, possibly 15 by now, may actually be ahead of Elite Dangerous Star Citizen's paid accounts and Starfield's standalone retail sales combined. And on player count, it does continue to maintain the highest average, at least on Steam. So while it's not the prettiest game, it doesn't have the best stories or character interactions, and it's not the technological frontrunner, it maintains a regular active space game enthusiast community, and it captures the attention of the greater industry in a pretty unique fashion. While it is my own opinion, I do believe No Man's Sky is influencing the genre and playing the part as that space game tentpole I was looking for the whole time, keeping the community healthy and fed in between the bigger projects that are sure to start stealing more of our attention very soon. Games like Exodus and The Expanse: Osiris Reborn. And while you can subscribe here to learn more about those games later on, I want to finish today showing you just how healthy Hello Games actually is. Not just from the game perspective, but also a financial one. We all know Hello Games is working on another game, Light No Fire, set to simulate an entire planet complete with different biomes, entire oceans, ships that need to be crewed, dragons that can be ridden, and endless land to explore. We also know the technology that goes into this game finds its way back into No Man's Sky. But did you know why this is happening? About 2 months before announcing Light No Fire in 2023, Hello Games was filing their 2022 financial report. They reported a near doubling of profit year over year at £33 million on revenue of £40 million. That's all on top of cash reserves they had been sitting on totaling at about £138 million. For a company of around 46 to 50 people at the time, they were flush. However, they did pay out a £120 million dividend in 2023 to Sean Murray, the owner of the company, bringing that cash pile down to £34 million, but also signaling confidence in the long-term health of the game, I think. In the meantime, while other companies were cutting jobs after the bloat of the pandemic and struggling to make money, Hello Games was slowly adding more to their team and sitting pretty comfortably. Even with a 29% revenue drop to £28 million, they still cleared $21 million in profit, a 74% profit margin. I think they've proven their model is healthy and sustainable and not reliant on artificial hype cycles. And with no outside publisher driving their decisions to make more money, monetize their player base, or rush a launch, they made probably the best possible play there was. They stepped into the fantasy genre. I hadn't really thought about how large a success this could be for them before now. We've seen games like Valheim and Minecraft take the industry by storm, and now that I look at it, I'm not really sure I see a reason Light No Fire can't release to do the same. With the existing reputation, No Man's Sky's flourishing in the sci-fi genre, a game engine that's purposefully and well-equipped for the tasks that they have, and new gamers discovering new games every day, the stage is kinda set. And they've clearly received another bump in funding and PR after the Voyagers update and the latest expedition going on. In a world dominated by battle passes, microtransactions, constant funding events, and regular job cuts in the name of profit, Hello Games has come out on top. They've kept the team small, the ownership of the company is under one name, and the focus at the studio is on building better games. And it's working for them, their game, and their fans. Now I know this has been heavy on the hype for No Man's Sky, but honestly it's kinda earned. Maybe another space game can run away with being on the forefront of space game trends, easily accessible, and constantly updated to the praise and enjoyment of hundreds of thousands of players 9 years after its release. But for now, I'm convinced No Man's Sky can be the tentpole for space games, representing the genre, being the mainstream Trojan horse, and honestly kinda defining the safe zone of space game features and mechanics. Which, this is all great, because a rising tide raises all boats and all that jazz. Folks don't stop at one game. When people do go play this game, they're going to consider the mechanics and the features they like, and want to look for more versions. This is how a genre or a subgenre of games can flourish. It's just showing players new, more niche games. There's always a more specialized game out there than the one you're playing, and No Man's Sky looks like a better segue for these games than any other from an accessibility and a numbers perspective. While this was a game people didn't really want in 2016, in 2025 it's kind of proven itself the herald of space games. Hey, thank you for watching. Since you're still here, I'd like to share a quick deal with you from the sponsor of today's video. The Tobii Eye Tracker 5 is a device I like to use to help control my game, handle security on my computer, and film for my videos. By using infrared sensors instead of real cameras, it can read your eye movements and give you more control in over 100 different games, in the dark, in the light, with glasses on, etc. Right now they're celebrating their 24th anniversary and they're actually giving one of these away, as well as a ton of different copies of various games like Deus Ex, Microsoft Flight Simulator, Star Citizen, and X4. You can also get various peripherals and some other things that space game nerds might be into. There's also a 20% discount as part of the event ongoing until the 11th. If you got your HOTAS figured out and mounted, consider this as a possible next addition to your setup. And if you have any more questions about the device or want to see it in action, I'm usually using it whenever I stream games that support it, which is almost all the time. So feel free to drop by and ask some questions, and I can turn the visual tracker on so you can see how it actually works. Thank you again for watching this video until the very end. I hope you learned something new in it, and I'll catch you in the next.